Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the premiere episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, Resurrection, and Ghosts. And this was a pretty effective 1-2 punch that we got in here because the first episode, Resurrection, kind of caught us up to speed of what everybody's been doing before throwing us into our story plot. And then, of course, the second one just continuing on the good story plot that they had for that episode. So the first one, Resurrection, dealt with kind of where they were and what they were going on with their summer, and we see that Nadja and Laszlo have gone to like 6 or 7 familiars during this point before they've landed on their current one, Topher, and it's played by Haley Joel Osment, and he just works pretty well with what's going on in the house at this point. We've seen that Colin has gone off and got himself like a convertible to annoy more people. Nandor just pretty much turned into kind of like smoke and got like put through an air purifier. And Guillermo has had the worst kind of luck because he's essentially not slept in weeks because he has had to stay up and murder vampire assassins that have been coming after him since the trial. And he has been overworked and pretty much doing the stuff that Topher has been doing. And Nadja and Laszlo love his ass, even though he pops up and does all this kind of shit out of nowhere. And we see that like Guillermo has pretty much been eating like chocolate coffee beans to keep himself awake as he's like you see him kind of like coax this squirrel into the house, and we see that it's a vampire, and he like fucking stakes his ass, and he's just like going nuts, and he spills the beans everywhere, and Andor thinks that he like had a bathroom mishap and that Guillermo has literally been eating like his own dried feces. And I'm just like, god damn it, Nandor. And I just feel for Guillermo and just all the stress that he's under. He's a familiar and he just wants to be a vampire, but he is in the most dysfunctional house for that thing to happen. So that's pretty much setting the scene as Colin's pretty much on his. He's like, I'm doing good. Nandor's like, I'm doing good. And Nadja and Laszlo are like, we're doing good. As we see that Topher has just been doing his own kind of stuff, pretty much being lazy. We see that they even read his resume, didn't understand half of what it meant, but just got him on there. We see that he's doing a side hustle for like hard cider, and just like, yeah, I don't care. I guess I'd rather be a warlock or whatnot. I'm like, yeah, he pretty much has figured out that vampires exist. Of course, there'd be warlocks as well. He's like, yeah, all right, cool. And of course, Guillermo's like, why would you be a familiar if you didn't want to be a vampire? Just seeing him slowly lose his shit with that was just like nuts. And then, of course, we see that Topher makes a great mistake, letting into vampire assassins that Guillermo then has to deal with. He tries to call him out on it, and he's like, no, he's talking about his side hustle and everything. He's like, just stay away from the koi pond. There's an electrical thing going on with it. He's like, oh, I'll fix it or whatnot. He's like, just wait for the dudes on Monday. Doesn't listen, goes to it, and electrocutes himself. Of course, Nadja and Laszlo are heartbroken that, again, they've lost another familiar, and they decide to go take him to a necromancer to revive him. And it's really kind of great because I looked and I'm like, hey, he looks like Wong from Doctor Strange, and it is, and I'm just like, that's really kind of cool. So he like brings him in, he's like, all right, cool, let's kind of get on with this. And of course, Nandor is fixated with these license plate keychain things, and I didn't really think much of it. He's like, oh yeah, this is for Steve, and he's just really into it, and I'm like, okay, well, kind of have to see what goes on with that. So he's like, all right, did you bring the body and everything? And of course, they force Guillermo to bring in the body. And he's like, do you have any like personal effect for the dude? And they brought his mini fridge. I'm like, okay, you really like a dude for what he's doing when you're around, pretty much ass kissing you, but you really don't know that much about him other than he just likes his mini fridge. You gotta observe that shit more. But he starts doing his stuff, and first he had to have all the ingredients, and 350. He's like, yeah, spell doesn't work if you don't have the 350. And he starts doing it, but he's messing with his phone while it's going on. And Laszlo's at first throughout this whole thing is calling it bullshit, that necromancy is just like bullshit stuff, doesn't work, whatever. Well, they get him back, but it'll take a little bit. And he's like, hey, I can speed it up for you for like an extra $100. And they're like, no, fuck that shit. I'm like, yeah, we're coming back in, and we're we're back in the house. They're doing their minutes meeting and everything, and we see that Topher has now essentially become a zombie and is crawling along the walls and just shouts his name. And Guillermo brings up everything that Topher's pretty much been doing, hiding under his bed, trying to eat him, eating and killing birds and everything. And Nandor even brought up that the house is starting to smell like a decaying corpse. And I'm like, at first, I didn't go to Topher. I'm like, is that the vampires that Guillermo's been killing? It's like, no, Topher's stinking, and he's killing birds everywhere. And Guillermo's like, he's trying to fucking kill me and eat me. And, of course, he's like ready for it and stabs him. He's like, oh, high five, high five, high five, high five. Because that was a thing that he would do when he was alive. And he high fives him, but his arm falls off, and then he's chasing him, smacking him and everything. He actually throws him over a banister. Colin's like, hey, I'm going out. Do your thing, guys. And then he's keeps getting chased around and everything until we finally get to the point that he's pretty much drowning Guillermo in the koi pond, but then Nandor's like, screw this stuff, and he tries to kill him, and Guillermo's pretty much like, he's a zombie. He is not Topher. He has not been brought back. He has not been reanimated. He is a zombie. And he's been reanimated as a zombie, man. Let it go. And Nandor's trying to kill him, and the joke keeps going. Like, oh, he was a good dude and a good familiar, and he comes back. He's like, God damn it! So he throws him in the koi pond. Thinks that'll drown him. Nope. He's like, God damn it! So he stands on him while Guillermo flips the switch. He's like, ooh, that's kind of tingly. As he gets a little bit electrocuted as they kill him. Well, not kill him. It essentially stuns him. They essentially go back to the necromancer's like, we want a refund. He's like, fine, I don't do this much. Leave him with me. Take a keychain. And they're like going through. Nadja gets hers. Nandor gets Steve. Guillermo gets Gigi and everything, and then they kind of leave, and then we see that the necromancer takes him down, and it was really interesting because Colin was looking for a Colin one, but the only one they had was Condom. He's like, we haven't sold those things since like eons ago, but he takes him down, and he's this dude doesn't tell people what goes on because he sticks Topher. He's like, just keep making those, you'll get it, I'll check on you in a year. All these people have been pretty much making license plate keychains with their names. I'm like, that was a pretty effective little joke at the end. I'm like, alright, that works pretty well. So that's where the first episode ends. Then we get into ghosts. And this one was really pretty funny because it goes with the concept of ghosts, and at first the vampires don't believe in them. All except Nadja. Nadja's the only one that believes in them. And I love it because we see that Laszlo's doing some stuff and his books are moving around and everything, and at first he thinks it's Guillermo, and Nandor's like, why would you do this? And he's like, I haven't been in this room. And then they see stuff moving, and then Guillermo takes this paper and says, hey, it says Laszlo sucks backwards. It's like, why would you do that? Why? Nobody should write that and everything. And Nadja's like, it's a ghost. And then, ooh, like a book is like thrown at him, and she's like, alright, fine, let's do this seance thing. She's doing it and all that. We start hearing some stuff from the ghost and all that. Nandor thinks it's Guillermo farting. Colin makes a funny joke about that maybe it's a ghost with IBS. She's like, your shit potty humor and your fart jokes and shit. She bucks off. Now, we also get this running subplot of Colin. He has now moved his vampiring for emotional energy and everything to doing jokes. And he is going throughout this episode trying to do the up dog joke. And it's fucking hilarious because he keeps getting shut down. But it does come back at the end. So, she's outside. She's kind of pissed off. And we see that Jeff pops up as the ghost. He's like, yeah, I got unfinished business and everything like that. And they're talking and all that. And she kind of just wants him to leave. And of course Laszlo comes out, says that he doesn't see anything, goes out. He's like, holy fucking shit, there's a ghost outside. Gets Nandor's like, there's a fucking ghost on the front lawn. He's like, fine, let's do this. And he gets like a dagger kind of thing. He's like, no, go for the big sword. He's like, where's that fucking ghost? Goes outside, throws himself through the ghost. He's like, oh god, what's on me? And it's like, that's ectoplasm, man. Oh, I'm like, they're like, oh god. And they're freaking out. And he's like, I need help with this. And she's like, I'm not going to help you right now. My husband's like running down the street shitting himself for what's going on. And of course Guillermo starts talking to Nandor about this. I'm like, you're a vampire. And you don't believe in ghosts. We got like werewolves, necromancers. We got all this shit. Ghosts is where you draw the line. Yeah, it was really kind of funny how I was doing it. Because they're doing it with the documentary format. Nandor's talking. And then you hear Guillermo like kind of huff in the background and then starting the exchange. I'm just like, yes. So then they're trying to figure out, all right, what's a ghost? And I'm just like, hey, it's a spirit inside human. When they die, it's released, and they stay here when they have unfinished business. And then it goes to that logical conclusion of like, wait a minute, we're dead. Do we have ghosts? Hey-o! Cue up the next seance, and they bring up each other's ghosts. And I was like, I didn't expect that to happen. I kind of like that as a lore detail of, yes, normally vampires don't have souls, but does that mean that they don't exist? Would they become ghosts if they're walking around, if like a soul separated from its body? Soulless kind of state. How does that kind of work? And I'm like, I really like how they did this. I'm like, okay, it's a funny thing, and two, it's just a really kind of cool thing to dive into the lore and just be like, okay, because we see each of them. Now, granted, the main one that we have a problem with is Nandor because he's speaking a language that he's pretty much forgotten. So his is kind of relegated more into the background. Same with Laszlo's. Laszlo's doesn't get that much time. It's more focused on Nadja and Jeff's kind of thing. So we get that Nadja pretty much talks with her ghosts, and her ghost is like, you're immortal now. You have an eternal life, and you're like doing nothing. You're just sitting in this house with these two stupid dudes who are fucking dumb as hell. She's like, what? Could I have learned this instrument and everything like that? They're really getting along, and I'm like, that's kind of cool that they get along, and they're just kind of trying to figure each other out. And of course, they pretty much go through all these different things. They find a doll, and she's like, yeah, that'll be cool. Possesses that. And then Jeff's like, fine, whatever. Are you going to help me? She's like, no, just fuck off, man. But of course, Nadja's ghost is like, hey, so she's like, call me, man. She's like, yeah, I'll do that. So I think at some point to have both of their spirits move on, they'll like bang it out and then move on to the next life. But we don't get that done in this episode. So I actually don't have a problem with that of having that go throughout the season. I'm like, it's interesting that we have Nadja the vampire and Nadja your human spirit pulling around. I'm like, alright, cool. So while she's doing that, we see that Nandor's trying to figure out what's going on with his dude, and they start getting into it of like, hey, alright, he's interested in the horse because he finds a picture, sees that, and we get the whole backstory of that this horse was very important to Nandor. Rode into battles and everything, but it came to a point where they didn't have any food and he had to eat his horse. He was crying the whole time, but he said it was delicious and everything, but you could tell that that horse, John, meant a lot to Nandor, both as a vampire and as his ghost spirit. So him and Colin pretty much call up the horse's ghost spirit. They kind of have a nice farewell, and the horse ghost and Nandor's ghost move on to the next life. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then we have Laszlo's, and we find out that his ghost's unfinished business is the night that he was killed by Nadja and turned into a vampire. He was about to climax, but he died before he could orgasm. So he's like, yeah, I've been trying to like rub that shit out, but ghost hands, man, you want to help a brother out? And Laszlo's pretty much like, yeah. And we don't really see much about it until like Nadja comes back in to their room with the little doll, and he's like, yeah, my dude moved on and everything. So he essentially masturbated himself, and she's like, oh god, what's all this stuff around the room? Is that ectoplasm? And he's like, yes, it's ectoplasm. And I'm like, oh god. So that was pretty effective. I didn't know where exactly that was going to go. And I'm like, yeah, worked with the gross out humor. And that was a good payoff with that one. Same with Nandor's. It gave us a good amount of backstory not a good amount of backstory, but something that was important to Nandor and how he kind of dealt with it, and just kind of gave us more information on him. He does care for these things, but of course he's an asshole about these things too. Same with Guillermo. We'll have to see how that goes, because we did get a scene where it's like, yeah, he'll turn me into a vampire eventually, and if he doesn't, he opens up his little fridge and it's got all those vampire killing things going in there. So it's like, yeah, if Nandor really just keeps dragging this on, Guillermo's gonna kill his ass, and Nandor's gonna be like, what are you doing? Why would you do this to me? It's like, you betrayed him, so he doesn't care about your betrayal. Oh Lord. So we end out the episode, and we get Colin wrapped up in this, where he pretty much does a seance to get his grandma, and he just uses that to finish out the updog thing. He gets his grandma to do it. He's like, oh yeah, I'm done. She wants to know all this stuff about what's happened since she's dead. And he's like, fuck that shit. And blows out the candle and sends her back to her afterlife worldly ways. I'm like, damn. So I was like, I'm glad that we have like jokes that come around and it's like, okay, we do get nice payoffs with them. I'm like, that's what I really liked about this show and how they've kind of just built it. And I'm glad to see that going through season 2, and I can't wait to see how everything goes out from here and what other kind of wacky, crazy things are going to be going on. So those are my opinions on the episodes. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked them, if you didn't like them, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.